Hi, Barney. Lovely to be chatting to you today. Can you first of all introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Barney Wragg. I'm the founder and CEO of Karakuri. Karakuri is a robotic food preparation company. We specialize in producing robots and automation systems for the restaurant and food services industry.
Brilliant, thank you. And it's fab to have a chat with you today. I've got loads of things I want to ask you about. So let's kind of start zoomed out. So as COVID-19 has become the kind of medium-term norm, what do you see the long-term implications of it being in the sectors that you guys work in?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I think it's very early days to really be talking about specifics of the long term. I mean, I think we're only just coming to grips with the last 12 weeks of lockdown. What's that going to mean for the industry? What's that going to mean for business in the next 12 weeks, let alone the next 5 years? But I mean, there are some key things coming through that are really, really key. So it does look like social distancing is going to be an important part of our lifestyle for the foreseeable future. And that's not just on the customer side of our industry. So not just people wanting to buy food, go into a restaurant, go into a retail environment, pick food up that's ready to eat and go, but also on the employer side. So a lot of the spaces that we work with, a lot of the companies that we work with have optimized their kitchen spaces and their serving spaces to be as tiny as possible to get the maximum footfall and efficiency per square foot.
Yeah.
They're now looking at an environment where that might not work anymore. If they've got to have 2 meters or even a meter between employees, how can they make a safe environment for their employees as well as their customers? So we're seeing lots of questions being raised around that, lots of thinking around what does a new restaurant or a takeaway or a canteen look like in the future? And that's coupled with, I think, a general sense that people are heightened about the hygiene aspects of their food. They're heightened, they're hypersensitive around the exposure of their food to contamination. So all of these things are factors that are coming into play right now in the industry around all the pressure that's also in play about, we've had most restaurants closed for 3 months, which, the economic challenge that's coming in as a result of that with rents and rates, staff retention, all of that's kind of coming into a very dynamic period, I think, for the restaurant and catering industry.
So because of the kind of restaurant closures, bar closures, et cetera, during this time, have you as a business had to pivot to kind of other verticals?
No, not really. We've been very lucky that essentially the first product that we announced and we're bringing to market is an automation solution for canteen service, so effectively for serving pre-prepared foods. And actually, we've seen just an increased amount of interest and demand for our product. It's early for us. We don't have the product ready. We're not mass selling it yet, but we've seen a lot of customers come through everything from hotels that traditionally did a buffet breakfast, through retail environments where you might have had a salad bar or some kind of takeaway, through to the quick service restaurants where you might just have walked in and grabbed a salad for your lunch. So all of that spectrum of everybody in that spectrum is trying to understand the new reality, and actually it's generated a lot of interest for the types of products that we do.
So I kind of look into the future, and I know that it's hard to kind of predict where we're going to be in 5 years' time, but I'm assuming you've had kind of, you are seeing an acceleration of kind of people looking to robotics and kind of more of an interest in that technology because of the pandemic. So what kind of role do you think robotics will play in the future in the retail industry? We're seeing it, obviously, Ocado back you, don't they? So they're using it in their warehouses, presumably.
I can't say too much about that, but
okay.
They're very interested in it. But I mean, they have said publicly that they plan to use some of our technology in different ways. So yeah.
Yeah. So obviously it's being used in kind of back end situations in warehouses and stuff. Can we expect to see it more on shop floors in the future, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think to take that 10,000 foot view, the general view is, I think one of the things that's going to live with us for a very long time after COVID is the drive to customer acceptance of e-commerce. So whether that's buying household products, groceries, clothing, or food, I think there's been an enormous shift and an enormous acceptance in, I can pre-order something or I can order it and get it through there. That's going to really, you can see the ramifications of that through the food industry, both on the grocery side and on the sort of restaurant side. What that does is it starts to allow people to really look at where else can technology be used. So I think in general, what's going to happen is a broader acceleration of technologies of which robotics will be a part. And I think that there's lots of, the time is just right for robotics. You can see Ocado is a very, very good example of that, where, not very long ago, the school of thought was that you had to have manual pick and place for everything in an e-commerce warehouse environment. Ocado really championed that on a grocery side in their use of robotics, and now they're getting really significant advantages for their customers in terms of cost per pick, cost per item, efficiency, inventory management, all those kind of things which are absolutely key. Yeah. When you come to dealing with fresh food, be it either in a grocery space or in a restaurant space, that same level of advantage can be derived from using automation. And it doesn't really matter whether you use that automation in the background, in a warehouse environment, in a mise en place environment, in a restaurant, or whether it's out front of house doing service. There'll be different automation solutions for the different challenges that come up. And there's lots of advantages for the restaurant owners, the business owners, in terms of efficiency, quality of service, reliability, all of those kind of things. And the fact that, actually just retaining and finding staff has been a huge a huge problem in the food services industry. And there's also a lot of advantages to the end customer. So a lot of confidence in the product. You can be certain that it's it's not going to be contaminated. You can be certain how it's been put forward. But also you can start to get a lot of other advantages that, we talk a lot about customization. So you're able to dial up exactly what you want in the quantities that you want, and the machine will portion it directly for you. And also in a world of e-commerce, people are becoming very familiar with, I want to order this. That means that what they really also need or like to have is a very predictable period of time when something's going to be ready. So we all know the experience. If you order on Deliveroo, it says it's going to be about 20 minutes. It actually takes 40. Then there's a delay. That's not a great customer experience. When you use automation, you can really get into, okay, I know when this order's come in, I know what ingredients are available, I know exactly how long it's going to take. So you can give a very deterministic response to when something's going to be able to be collected for a rider to pick up. Or if you're walking into a store to collect something, they could be made ready for you just in time.
So there's a lot of kind of potential and a lot of assistance that robotics can do in terms of allowing retailers to become more efficient and safer, I suppose, as well. What about hyper-personalisation? Where is the opportunity? Where do you see robotics playing a role in the future of hyper-personalisation?
Yeah, I mean, we think this is going to be a huge trend in the food industry. We think if you look at the adoption of smart devices that we wear with biometrics already on them, things like Apple Watch or any of the Android watches or Fitbits, we're all becoming increasingly conscious of our activity level, what's happening with our what we're doing physically, what our physical reaction is, our body's reaction is to that. We think it's logical that was going to extend into our diet. So we can already see people who are very particular about their diet, what they eat, when they eat, how they eat things. That they may have particular issues with allergens, or they may have particular diets that they're trying to follow for health or medical benefits. And we think that that's going to get more and more important to consumers, and that they're going to be wearing biometrics. It's going to advise them more and more about what they should be eating or what would be the best thing for them to eat to hit their particular nutrition goals. And we see a world where robotics is kind of working in sync with these devices so that there's a two-way communication. So when you walk into a retail environment or a restaurant environment, your watch can be profiling what that restaurant does, understanding what's available, and effectively knowing what your preferences are, and maybe giving you a recommendation of, oh, you can go in this restaurant, they sell these type of items, you typically like a Caesar salad, I can put this together for you. And you can do that very, very specifically in a way that exactly matches the nutritional targets that you have for that day. And where that is possible with robotics, and where it's been difficult with humans, is that robots are very, very good at accurately doing the same thing over and over again. It doesn't matter how rushed it is, it doesn't matter how busy it is, they don't tend to just get a scoop of, we all know the thing, I used to have a favorite dinner lady at school because she would always give you an extra scoop of chips or mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Robots just don't do that. If you tell it to dispense 120 grams, it will dispense 120 grams. And it's also been difficult for a normal restaurant to offer that service, because when it gets busy, that's when the accuracy gets out. So people are rushing to do things, you don't know what's going through. Well, because robots know it takes so many seconds to dispense 120 grams of that, 80 grams of this, or 5 grams of that, you can build that delivery schedule. So I can literally be scheduling when I want to pick my meal up, know what's going to be in it, and have that specificity in there, that's just a very difficult thing to do for people to do, particularly in a busy and rushed environment.
So it sounds like, I always find the kind of the whole robotic human kind of interaction piece interesting, and kind of what the optimal situation would be. What do you think? Do you think kind of a hybrid model where you have robotics doing a certain function that they're great at, but also kind of aided by humans, giving the human touch? And as you mentioned, like the example with the dinner lady, how do you see that kind of interacting and playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I think we very much think that there's a hybrid world. We think of our robots as being augmentation or assistance to humans. And there's things that humans just do really quickly, really, really well. And when it's, for example, dealing with a customer, understanding the customer's requirements, talking to them, helping solve problems, that's something that humans do intuitively extremely well, and machines find very difficult to do. And I think there's things where, machines are very good at doing very accurate, fixed, repetitive tasks, but anything that's a little bit different, a little bit creative, a bit more difficult, that's where machines are not strong.
Yeah.
So we do think there's a hybrid environment. We think in the types of retail that we're involved in around food, whenever you talk to anybody in the restaurant trade, even the people that work in the restaurants, one of their biggest complaints is they don't get enough time with customers. They don't get enough time to provide the service that they think they would like to, or that they think their customers would want. And so we think the shift will be that machines will be used to take away some of the more repetitive, boring, straightforward tasks that require a lot of labor, require a lot of time, but take away from the available labor to do the customer service tasks. We think customer service, human interaction will get more important, and you'll get a better one as a customer, because the members of staff will have more time to deal with you, and the more programmatic, straightforward tasks can be done by assisted robots.
That's really interesting. I am looking forward to seeing more of these on the shop floor. I think that will be. When do you envisage kind of that happening?
I think we're going to start deploying things later this year and into next year. I think it's a very early stage. This is a very new set of technologies. I think within 5 years, robots will be very commonplace in commercial kitchens and in retail environments. But I don't think this is something that you're going to see by next spring. Every supermarket in the UK doing this. I think you'll start to see pockets of it. People experiment with it, and I think you'll see an acceleration over the next 5 years.
It's really interesting. I can't wait to see them. And just to finish off, what has been your kind of biggest learning from this period and what you've seen in the market?
I think the biggest learning for me has been just how amazing our team are and how flexible they can be when we really pushed. So, we do something that's really complicated. It's kind of really at the cutting edge of where things are in technology and science. Robotics is very collaborative. It's the coming together of mechanical engineering, electronics, software. It's a multidisciplinary, multi-skilled kind of practice to make things work. And at the beginning of the outbreak, we were really concerned as a company that we were going to have to send everybody home. We're a new business. Would we be able to make progress? Were we going to have to furlough people? How was this all going to work? And we really focused on, okay, let's try and think about how as a team we can work remotely. And, I think we've made as good progress, if not better progress than we previously were doing. It's made us gel more as a team, think more about our communication, really push. And, frankly, I've just been staggered by the commitment of some of our employees. They've taken, big chunks of a robot home to a one-bedroom flat in central London. We've had people working on the hardware, prototyping things, getting parts sent from their suppliers directly to their sort of home bedrooms. We've had them on video links with people who went to stay back at their parents, who are working on software or electronics, all doing this remotely, all coming together, pushing forwards. We've onboarded new team members. I mean, frankly, I think for me as a manager, it's been humbling and really incredible to see how the team has adapted. And I think there's a huge amount for us to learn about how flexible people can be, and how so sometimes it takes a crisis to make you think about these things. And I think for me the big learning has been the flexibility, capability, and just incredible determination of our team is something that has been the biggest takeaway for me from this whole period.
Brilliant. It sounds like there's a real spirit of collaboration and innovation from within the company, so that is fab. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Barney. I really love chatting.